obviously the main. Good evening and welcome to a slightly late Mancunian way. We do apologise, but some of our technical issues. Martin is on his way. He's just had to deal with a few things, which I'm sure he'll want to. I'll let you guys know about when he gets here. But for now, you have got the wonderful Darmish who's joined us yet again. Thank you, mate. Obviously, Sir Alan, looking great.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And of course, Rich. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Good morning. Very good. How are you, Ozzy?
Good.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thank you very much. As you all are aware, when mine's not around, I can't bring up chat and stuff, but please be patient. We'll get some of those up in a bit. But for now, we'll obviously the main discussion tonight is possible players that are going to be leaving us over the transfer window. But we'll just touch upon a couple of brief bits of news. Obviously, today it's been announced that we have signed Napam, the young 18-year-old Dutch lad from Norwegian Dutch lad from Rosenborg. We obviously, a couple of months ago, it was rumoured, well, I think it was confirmed actually, that he'd come to the Etihad, he'd watched one of the games. He'd also visited Arsenal. I think Villa were also possibly visitors as well. Hot prospect. Yeah, and it's been announced that City have actually got him, which was a bit surprising, if I'm honest, because I think it was being more linked to Arsenal than to us and Villa, to be fair.
Are we gonna farm him out on loan or not?
Girona.
Well, that's one of the I think Girona was mentioned, Rich, but I don't think that might be happening now. I think possibly he may be part of the Lyon deal. I could be wrong, but his name has been mentioned. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. But I would expect he probably would go out on loan. I'm not sure realistically where he'd fit in the squad, or really be in the youth academy or anything like that. I think it's more likely he wants first team football, and I think that's where we'll go with him. But guys, what is your initial thoughts on this signing?
I'll kick it off.
Oh, Alan,
I don't know too much about him, to be honest with you. I just saw it in the news yesterday. It was the first time I knew anything about it or anything about him. Apparently he's a talent, so we'll have to take what the clubs say about him. So I don't know anything about him, mate. I'll be honest with you.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I think he's been likened to Odegaard, but I think that's a bit unfair. I think
18,
from what I've heard, he's more kind of like a Xavi. That's where I think a lot of people have said he's quite silky with his ball movements. He's good at kind of a very good dribbler, so breaking through the lines. So that's what I ultimately know. I know I watched the highlight reel when we were linked a few months back, and he looked decent, but again, that's just a highlight reel, and anyone on a highlight reel can look decent, So, Dharmesh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same as Aaron. Honestly, I don't know much about him as a player, like what sort of player he is, but I'm sure the number of midfielders we have already signed and the other midfielders we might sell depending on those, but I think he would be one of those who would be loaned out. If not Girona, Lyon, possibly. But I think he would be loaned out.
Yeah. And Rich, anything
Yeah,
you want to say differently?
I think it's exciting that we're going for exciting flair players. I think Cherky's 21, even though he looks about 40. We've got Echeverry, who's very exciting young player. He's another, I think, 18 months younger than Cherky, and now Napam, and he's 18. But I think he was one of the youngest players ever to make the debut in a top European league. He was 15 and a bit when he first made his debut. So he's obviously very, very highly rated. And, it's another player who can now go into that space where, I think we've got, we've lost De Bruyne, but then we've got Foden, we've got Cherky, we've got Echeverry, and we've got Napam now all coming through. And I think that's very exciting. And I think, I'd like to think at the next World Cup, Norway, playing with Big Earl, Oscar, Napam, some quite exciting attacking play together at international football, not just at club football. So, I think exciting move. And we must have put pretty enticing footballing prospects in front of him, because he has turned down about a dozen big European clubs, and he's turned down clubs who were offering him quite, on the surface, have been a bit better at playing young players. So it's interesting that City, can go and get him, and that we've put a footballing prospect in front of him that he's excited by, and he sees real progress coming. So it must be, it must be a Lyon or a Girona or a club that he sees as an exciting place to go and play, that we've said he'll be going to.
Yeah, no, definitely, Rich. I think everyone's made some really good comments there. I think you're all right. I think this is it's really nice to see City go out and get these young up and coming, special talents that, feel that they could, do something in the near future, whether it's for City or whether it's for someone else. But I think we've seen that with City, even if, some players don't come into Manchester City, don't, come for the first team, they have opportunities to go elsewhere and have really good careers. You only have to look at, Chelsea have snapped up most of our young talent over the last few years. So we must be doing something right. That players, yes, they probably do want to play for City. They do want to get into the first 11, but they know ultimately that if they're in the City umbrella, they've got a good chance of playing for a top club somewhere else, having a decent career. So only time will tell.
Yeah, and a bit of flair as well. I think it shows probably that the football director and others at the club think we have gone a little bit too machine at times, and that we do need a little bit of magic, to do the unlocking when we have low blocks against us. That we do need, I think
we've also cocked up, haven't we, by letting go some players that can unlock, i.e. Cole Palmer, which was the biggest cock up ever, by letting him go, because he's better than Savio, and he's certainly better than Doku, and he's proved it left, right, and centre at Chelsea. You know,
well, the thing is, Alan, I think we have to look at the Cole Palmer. I wouldn't want to completely judge Cole Palmer on the same as Doku and especially Savio, because they're both a bit younger, especially Savio, and they've only just started their careers at City. You know, Palmer came through the academy. You know, knew how we were going to play. He knew the setup, and was playing with, at the time, you know, Premier League champions, you know, FA Cup champions and Champions League champions. So, you know, he had a good start, you know, and he's gone on to have a good career at Chelsea. But to be fair, you know, you only have to look at, you know, this season for him, and it hasn't gone that well as when he first turned up. So, and again, time will tell. But I just think you have to be patient.
Yeah, I don't get negativity.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think Savio had, for a 20-year-old kid coming from Spain, I think, you know, Ozzy's right. I think he actually had a pretty good season. He got taken out of the limelight, you know, in the back half of the season, but I think he showed a lot. Fair Brazilian kid coming in from, you know, a Spanish team like that at the age of 20. I don't think we could have asked for much more, and I think, yeah, he holds a big part of our future.
Totally agree with you there, Rich. And I think, you know, when you just on your concerns, Alan, I think, you know, you have to think about, go back a decade, maybe a bit less, but you look at where Chelsea were when they had like Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, who couldn't get into those Chelsea teams, you know, because they had superstars at that point. Do you know what I mean? And they couldn't get all these players in. Yes, you know, you only ask Chelsea fans now, and they go, "Yeah, it was a mistake." They would exactly be saying what you've just said, and they probably
with all due respect, Ozzy, when Cole Palmer left City, we got rid of Mahrez. He was, and they went and signed Doku, and that's when he left. Because Doku came to be on the right side, and with all due respect, Cole Palmer can eat him alive, and he can.
I don't want to argue against you too much, because I think you're right in some respects. I do, but I also think, you know, Doku has had. I've said this before. I don't accept this season we should judge Doku completely on.
He's been there 2 seasons, mate. He's been there 2 years.
Alan, I know, but this season has been bad for every player on the pitch. No, I don't think there's one player who can really rate and say they've had a really good season, because even though we've named Guardiola as our player of the season, even he went through a bad patch. Do you know what I mean? Harland went through a bad patch. It's the whole team. Even Pepper's been through a bad patch. So I don't really look at just Doku and go, he's shit, get him out. I really would say give him another year and let's see where we're at, because there have been glimpses and flashes of him, you know, where he has been good. You know, you only have to look at that back pass that he did for Kevin De Bruyne and that goal. I can't remember which, it was a couple of games before the end of the season. You know, and that's what we needed from him, and that's what he did. And we've all said he needs to pick up his head and look around, you know, but yeah, I don't want to get too much onto Doku.
And I think that's a very, very fair comment. You know, I think the reality is Doku often had 3 players on him, and the fact that the rest of the team couldn't capitalise when he had 3 players, I think sometimes that is that's an indictment of the rest of the team. The amount of times he got past the last man and was there, and there was no City player following him, and he had to stop and pass back, and then City fans were blaming him for stopping and passing back, but no City player had made a run. The amount of times where he was trying to cross to a back post with 8 players in between him and the ball, and he gets the blame, but no City player had made a run for the near post. I think, you know, it was a poor season from nearly every player. And, you know, you look at it and you think how many had poor seasons because everyone was poor around them, and how many had poor seasons because they were, you know, past their best, older, unfit, tired, out of form, mental, you know, whatever it was. But the drop in form from so many was was staggering. And you get to a stage in the season where ultimately a not successful signing Portuguese midfielder was probably our second or third best player for a chunk of the season, playing out of position. And that, there's no way Nunes playing at fullback should be one of your best players, but he was for parts of the season. And, let's just hope that the energy, the youth, the sunshine in America, all these things, and a whole bunch of new coaches just bring a completely fresh mindset and, clear
just on that, Rich,
of last season.
Just on the new coaches, because I've heard it's been reported by Jack Gorn yesterday that another backroom staffer might be coming in, and that may be Colo Torre.
Yep.
Which is another interesting one. I mean, blast from the past. I think the last time I heard anything about Colo Torre, wasn't he at Spurs doing some backroom staff and coaching?
And he's been at Celtic. I thought he'd done some coaching. I don't know. He's been to a few places.
Yeah,
it'll be good for songs.
Definitely, yeah, definitely good for songs.
And just a comment on that. Yeah, just one thing on that Doku debate. I think Doku gets, like, in terms of comparison between Doku and Savio, I think people focus too much on Doku because, in my opinion, I think Savio has been equally, if not worse than him this season. Like, I have found Savio to be much more frustrating than Doku because I know the issue with Doku. He can beat a player. He's a great one-on-one attacker, but his final ball isn't ready. But with Savio, I don't know why he tries to shoot every time. He just can't score. Like, I don't know why his shooting is so bad.
He scored a lot in Spain. I mean, that's the thing. If you watch his goals,
but for City he doesn't. He's capable. I can literally see him. That player is there to pass, but he just tries to shoot every time. And
I think you have to remember, Dharmesh, that really you have to kind of remember that he's a kid. It's his first season, and I think a lot of pressure was put on him. I mean, we've all said this on previous shows that realistically, if Bob hadn't have broke his leg, we'd have seen a lot more from Bob, and Savio would have come in for the games now and then. He wouldn't have been played as much or relied upon as much as he has been last season, if we're really being honest. So, like I said, I don't really want to focus too much on the players of last season, because we do need to move on. And I think, we haven't done a review of last season's show. I think we are talking about trying to do that before the start of next season. So that's something we will do. So, mate, if you want to come in on that show and we'll have a good chat about, performances last season, come on for that. But I really do want to kind of move on with the show tonight. We're going to just briefly, while we're waiting for Martin, we'll talk about this travelling squad that's gone to the States. Any surprises for anybody? Anybody, thinking we're surprised to see them on the plane? How are we feeling about the travelling squad that's going to the States?
Well, I think it's a huge comment on Jack. I mean, most people who were fit and able to go are in that squad, and Jack isn't. So I think that's just, I don't think anyone would have expected Calvin. He's not been part of things for a long time.
It's clear he's had a fallout there, hasn't he?
Yeah, and we're just obviously trying to get Newcastle to want him so that we can, give them something that they really want, so that we can get something we really want.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the hopes.
It's a shame. I like Jack because I rate him as a good footballer, and I actually like him.
Alan, Alan.
Looking at it looks like he's on a fallout with Pep. I can clearly see that.
Yeah, I mean, according to certain media outlets, we've ruined Jack, or Pep has ruined Jack. He's not been allowed to play the Jack way, or as Pep has completely killed the creativity and the him being able to play in the middle. And I've heard it over the last few days. It's just been constantly that Pep ruined him, and I just don't buy it. For me, you have to look at his first season. Again, as we say with all City players coming in the first season, it's bedding in period, and he showed moments. Obviously, the second season went on in a big way to win the treble with us.
Yeah, did well.
And then that's where it fell down for Jack, if we're honest.
Do you not think, I mean, obviously, you have a professional interest in it and, a lot of knowledge, but do you not think with Jack that is just, he isn't quite prepared? He'll give 95%, but he won't quite give 100% to being an elite footballer. He won't stop drinking with his mates and doing things which ultimately, for a totally elite footballer, means you cannot play at quite the level of someone who devotes their life to football and, devotes their diet, their lifestyle, their sleep, what they do. I just think, to me, Jack is a lovely guy. He's puts a tear in your eye the way he behaves, the way he's considerate about people. He's absolutely lovely, and I reckon the club will miss having him around as a person. But I just don't think he probably trained quite as hard, worked quite as hard, pushed himself quite as hard, and sacrificed quite as much as some of the other players around him. You can't imagine him like Erling eating like deer hearts raw, and then watching 8 hours football and, eating, drinking special kinds of water brought in because it's the purest water, because you just want to be perfect. And I just don't think he had that. And I think maybe that's what Pep couldn't quite take.
I think there are elements that you're right. I think I'm a little bit, for me, like, he's drinking and he's socialising, I think is always, there's been a lot of that with English players over the numerous years. We've not only us, other clubs as well, where English players are seen going out drinking. And in all honesty, I don't accept that that's fully what's happened to Jack. Don't get me wrong. I think towards the end of this season, yes, that could be argued at him. But I think at the end of the treble, he definitely celebrated a little bit too much, possibly. But it was iconic, let's be honest. Let's be honest, it was iconic, and I don't think any of us are going to forget the memories of Jack celebrating the way he did. So, but yeah. For me, being brutally honest with Jack, I think everything you said, Rich, about him being a really nice guy, I think being a professional, on and off the field in some respects, I think the problem for me with Jack is that he was never £100 million player. It was basically, that's what Aston Villa priced him at, and if City had to pay the asking price, that was it. I think we all said at the time, he's never 100 million. He's like 50, 60. He's never that 100 million player. So I think that was always the albatross around his neck a little bit. I think you're right, Rich. I think when it comes to his top ability at being the ultimate player, the likes of Harland, like I said, like the likes of Ronaldo and Messi and, Salah, and he's never going to be at that branch. He's a very good player, but to be that elite player, no. He's never been that elite player.
They're just obsessed. Yeah, they're obsessed.
I think when it came to the treble, it was just like, that was it. He'd achieved everything. I think for some players, that is it. You look at Mahrez. I think he looked at and just got, I've achieved everything now at City. I'm going to move on. And I think in some respects, I think Jack could have moved on from that point, but he was a young player that was never going to be moved on just after a treble. But yeah, for me, that is what I look at Jack. I think he just didn't have that ability. I think he just felt, I've completed football now. I can just, I don't have to try as hard. I think with a lot of players we've currently got, the likes of Diaz, Rodri, who will be like amazed and we've won the treble. Then next season, we go again. We've got that drive and ability and hunger to go again. Jack just lost it.
And
And that's the way I
also
look
with
at it.
Jack,
Alan,
and
sorry, go on, dear.
yeah, I was just about to say also with Jack, I think when we started to play that controlling football, I think Jack just took that in and just became a controlling player. I think before that, I don't really agree that Pep ruined him, but I would say okay, Pep tried to get that controlling like football out of him. But I think after a certain point of time, Grealish just became that. And even I think Pep gave him freedom that okay, you can go try to shoot, try to score, try to assist, but I think he just lost that element in his game, and I think and that is not on Pep because
Well,
as a player he
I,
has to get it out of himself. But I think
I sort of
yeah,
agree with you, Delish. But when he did play in the middle against Forest, for argument's sake, at home, we saw the best of him because he had more freedom. And he got man of the match. He played really well. And when he did move him into the centre, he looked better. But by that time, Pep had already made his mind up. Pep had already made his mind up on him. And he only played there because of injuries.
Yeah, Alan, was it not that weekend though, after he got back in the team, the next day he was up in Newcastle, you know, seeing a friend, having a beer and then buying whole pub beer and, you know, having loads of drinks and coming back Monday morning. I mean, that's my point, is that, you know, if someone else had fought their way back into the team, you know, we laugh about the celebration, but at that celebration, Ruben Diaz had, you know, 2 tequilas and threw up in Jack's mother's, wasn't it, handbag, because he doesn't drink because he thinks drinking's going to take away from his performance and his fitness and everything else. So you've got him, and then Jack can go and hit it for, you know, some people say virtually hit it for 72 hours without stopping. I mean, you know, the Rolling Stones in their prime and Led Zeppelin would have struggled to keep up with Jack doing that. So, you know, in some ways, you know, that I just think that was the difference. And I think at some point Pep just thought, I've given you so many chances and you haven't quite understood what we're saying. You haven't quite grasped this opportunity. So no, I'm going to go and give that chance to someone else, and you know, you can go and play. And you know, Ozzy said it about English footballers, but how many English footballers have never met their potential? Like, just how good would Paul Gascoigne have been if he hadn't done what he did with his career? Or, you know, across at the Swamp, you know, George Best could have eclipsed Messi. You know, his talent was unbelievable, but he was declining at the age of 23 because of lifestyle. And I think, unfortunately, same with Gascoigne. I think, you know, same with, you know, Robson. So many players that England have had, or British clubs have had, have just not lived that lifestyle. Whereas I think in other countries, you know, they have other vices, but they generally, you know, don't have the same drinking culture. But it's hard for the fans because fans do, and then we criticise it. But I suppose we're not being paid 300 grand a week.
Yeah. Come on, guys. While we're there, come on, guys. Now we've got 160 going up to 200 people watching, and we've only got 69.
Everyone, yeah, we need likes.
Press the thumb. Press the
115
on like. Yeah, please. Let's get it to 115, and then we'll go for 200. Come on, press it.
Doesn't
please.
cost you anything, guys. You know. So as Alan said, if you're liking the content, please hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed,
does affect.
Have a think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come away from Jack because, you know, it's not the Jack show, and you know, it's sad, but I think, you know, yeah, it's right for him to leave. I think, you know, he has been linked with the likes of Newcastle and Napoli, and I think, you know, for Jack's sake, I think getting out of the UK wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him right now. I think getting away from the English media, you know, and seeing out the rest of his career in a foreign country, I think would be brilliant for him. I've got a feeling, though, he's a bit of a homeboy. I think he's I think he probably would want to stay in the UK. I don't think Newcastle's a bad shout, in all honesty. I think, he'd fit in really well there. For me, I am disappointed. I am a little bit angry with Jack, but I can't help like the guy. And I still thank him for everything he did, and I just wish him the best. I really do. So,
yeah. I want him to do well wherever he goes. I like him. It's a shame. I'm gutted about it, but at the end of the day, he's got to look after his career. So he needs to go and play football somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. One other exit that I'd like to briefly mention, but he's a legend, and I'm gutted that he's gone. I'm not going to lie, I am absolutely gutted he's gone, because I think if you've ever watched some of the behind scenes of the way he's been at City and just some of the ways he's put certain players under his arm, and yeah, it's good old Scott Carson. What a legend, in all honesty. I think he played 2-3 games while he was at City. He had a Champions League game, and yeah, obviously we didn't have to rely on him very much, but I think behind the scenes he was just that kind of older brother, maybe even father figure for some of the guys. And
what's he going to do now? What is it? What's his future? Because he's over 40 now, isn't he? So
he's certainly enough at City to retire, or buy a pub or a gym or whatever he wants to do. I mean, I think he's the sort of person who could maybe go into the media, because he's quite funny. So I don't think necessarily be mainline TV, but I could imagine him turning up on Talk Sport, or lots of podcasts and things like that, because he'll have a lot of interesting stories too from being at two Champions League winning clubs when they won the Champions League and stuff like that. I don't know if he has the medals.
He has got the medals. He's got 2 of them. He's got one for us and one for Liverpool.
Yeah,
and he won both of them in Istanbul at the same ground.
Yeah, he did. So, I think whatever he decides to do, I wish him luck. And like I said, I'm gutted he's gone. It was always great to see him, even on the bench. It was just like you could always rely on him. Again, he's had a great career, really, from Derby to West Brom to Villa to Liverpool, as you said, Alan, and starting off at Leeds. So yeah, he's a legend. I am good to see him go, but and we've signed the replacement. Remind me of his name, somebody.
Bellatini.
Obviously it's come from Chelsea. I don't know a huge amount about him, if I'm brutally honest.
It's homegrown, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters, really. Let's be honest. Yeah, you're right, Rich. That's all that really matters. Let's kind of hope we don't have to rely on him too much going forward. But yeah, it's we may see him. I don't know if he'll get any particular chance while he's out in the States. So, and again, we'll have to see what happens with the goalkeeping situation with the likes of Ortega and Ederson. As we know, it's looking that both will stay at the moment. I would have thought, in all honesty, that I think and we'll start with the goalkeepers. Martin hopefully won't be too long. We'll start with the outgoings now. So I think I would have thought, especially the likes of Ederson, if the Saudi deal was on, it would have happened by now, because I thought he would have gone straight at the end of the season. From everything I've heard, the 2 goalkeeping positions that were going in Saudi Arabia have now been filled. So I don't know really where he would go in Saudi. So I think it would have to be somewhere else. Or if he's now looking at running down his contract, which is looking more and more likely right now. And the same, I suppose, can be said for Ortega, really, because I think he's only got another year extension. I think he's good enough to be a number 1 somewhere. I don't think he's particularly good enough to be number 1 for City. But I think it's a situation for me that I don't think City really want to deal with right now. I think if they can keep both Ortega and Ederson for another season, and if they have to let them go on a free next season, then so be it. it's not ideal in some respects, especially for Ederson, because I think for me, he's still one of the best goalkeepers out there, especially with his feet, if not the best with his feet, if we're being brutally honest. Most assists by any goalkeeper. He's just such a talent, and to lose him would be hard to replace, because he plays the Pep way, he plays the goalkeeper that we need, and to replace him, I think we just have to think about having a different type of goalkeeper going forward. So I don't think that's an easy one to replace. Rich, what are your thoughts on the goalkeeping positions?
I think, I said this a couple of weeks ago on one of the shows. I think Ederson staying would be tremendous. I think with having fullbacks, especially fullbacks with a bit of pace, that will be a new lease of life with him, because there's someone to actually ping the ball to, put the ball in front of, and possibly create a new attacking dimension. But I think we saw with Claudio Bravo that when he came in, people are really negative about Claudio Bravo, but in that season, City totally changed the way they played, totally changed. And he came in experienced, made a few mistakes, but he made a few mistakes because the whole team was going from having a goalkeeper who caught the ball and kicked it down the field to one who, shimmied, trapped it, tried to pass it and start the attack with the feet. And I think it was incredibly disruptive. And I think with two new fullbacks, a new midfield, and everything else we're doing this season, and trying to, change a side that's really been built around, let's be honest, it's been built around a lot of the time De Bruyne, Gundogan, Bernardo, Stones, this whole centre of the team, the treble team. We're kind of gutting that and starting again this season, and I don't think we can afford to do that whilst changing goalkeepers without risking 10 points and a lot of pain. So for me, I'd like Ederson to stay I'd like him to stay another 3 years, but at least this season, so that when we change goalkeeper, we're changing goalkeeper in a side that is really established and really knows how to play together and knows how to position so that it doesn't cause us pain.
Yeah. Alan, what are your thoughts?
Two things, to be honest with you. I think if we are going to keep Ederson, first thing we've got to do is give him an increase from 90 grand. I think he's vastly underpaid, vastly. But that's only if he's going to extend for 3 years on his current contract. If he's not prepared to extend, then I'll be looking to bring somebody in. And I'd just go, there's one person for me, that's Trafford.
How did I know you were going to say that, Alan?
I've been saying it for weeks.
I know, I'm very well aware you've been saying it.
I know. And I've been saying it on DAP show as well. And he's bloody brilliant with his feet. 6'5", good goalkeeper. And he's got a lot of potential. So
we've let him go, haven't we? To
Newcastle.
But he's going to Newcastle, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a choice.
Pretty much let him go.
He's got a choice of going to Newcastle and fighting it out with Pope, and they've actually said that. So why doesn't he come to us and fight it out with Ederson for a year? Then Ederson can piss off if he's not prepared to sign. That's my argument. Okay. So if he's not prepared to sign an extension, then we should be looking now.
But Alan, how are you gonna, as the king of complaining about football, how are you going to react when a new goalkeeper, a kid, is having to deal with new fullbacks, new centre backs, and we drop points? And
I know.
How are you going to handle that?
We've got to stop looking back 2 years when he was there, 3 years when he was there, making mistakes when he was a kid. He's now playing for England. He's in the England squad, mate. He's the next England keeper. Fact.
Okay. Dharmesh, do you want to have your say before we come back to Alan's Trafford?
Yeah, I would say.
I'm just looking at Martin's comment.
Yeah, I would say keeping Edison. I think it's a good decision for, especially for this season, because it's already a huge change in our team this season. So I think Edison staying is a good idea. And on Alan's point, like even I think 2 year extension is fine, just to have some value when we decide to sell him or when Edison decides to go. So I think even 2 year extension would be fine, even if it's not 3. And yeah, keeping Edison this year, good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think with Edison, like he does seem over the last season, maybe 2, has there are moments where he's not completely felt like he's been on form.
Yeah.
There are moments where I think he's just let the game drift, and he's had some quite a few clangers, especially this season. So as much as I would like for him to extend and stay at City, I think he's got to be in the mind where he wants to. I don't want him just to stay out for the sake of it and extend if he's ultimately wanting a different challenge somewhere else. Because that's how it's looked over the last couple of seasons, where after the treble, it felt like he really wanted to go, and he didn't because the offers weren't coming in for him, as in like what City wanted at that point.
Yeah, he
I
should
think
take tips from Bernardo.
yeah. And I think that with Trafford, I hear it, Alan. Again, you could probably say that one day we may look at back and go, yeah, he was a talent that we may have let go. But ultimately, right now, he has been the likes of Newcastle. I mean, from everything I'm hearing from Newcastle fans, is they feel that Pope needs to be replaced, not that he needs a challenger. I think Trafford would want to be playing regularly, so. And I just don't think he's ready to play regularly for us. Yeah, he's
why?
Because I've not seen enough of him. In all honesty, he's been playing.
Why did you just say that then? We've not seen enough. I've watched him a lot last year because my mate down the road is a Burnley fan. He watches them, and fucking he's good. He's very good.
Just playing at Burnley and he's playing for the likes of Manchester
Sorry,
City.
shaking your head, Martin, but if Edison's not prepared to commit to us, let him go. He's not prepared to sign an extension. Fuck him off.
That's how you really feel, Alan. Honestly, Martin, great to have you here, mate.
Sorry, I'm following the new rules after the meeting, so that's why I just say
So I'll follow the new rule and tag out.
Tag in and tag out.
Sorry, wrong way. I'll tag out because I have to go and do some jobs now. And Martin, Mr. Reasonable, can replace Mr. Reasonable, and it's just very good because Ozzy was about to say, now which centre backs do we think should leave? So I think on that note, I'm going to leave the building. Thanks. Have a great day. Thanks for hosting, Ozzy. Great job. Good to see you, Martin. Alan, Dash. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah, bye, Rich.
Rich, thanks again, mate, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, my humble apologies for lateness. There was an incident that I was dealing with. Let's put it on way. The late, the going dark late now has had a very adverse effect onto my family. So yeah, that's why. So I do apologise. I seem to be the punching bag at the moment, but anyway, separation, you deal with that another time. Yeah, carry on, Oz. You can host tonight. Might as well, mate. You're doing a great job. Trafford, Alan, I understand it, mate, but it ain't happening. You and that both said, why is he not competing with Edison? When did he leave City, Alan?
2 years ago.
Right, who was our number one?
Edison.
Right, he didn't want to compete with Edison 2 years ago. Why do you think he's going to suddenly go, oh, yeah, let's go and do it again?
Because it's improved dramatically.
Has it?
Yeah. Look at his figures.
Right, so tell me the figures.
Right, I'm going to them now. So I was talking to Daps about this the other day.
Right, in the Championship, may I add this?
So what? So what?
No. Alan, I appreciate what you're saying, but Championship and Premier League are totally different. And yes, I don't normally do this, but I am going to do Standards FC right now. James Trafford is not Chevalier, Costa, or anyone like that. There's a reason he's only 30-40 million quid, and the other goals are going for a 70 mil out.
Yeah, and because we've got a buyback on him as well.
I don't care. Alan, you want him because
English, and he's English. And he's English.
You want Brexit FC. That's what you want. You do. You want all English, and I get it, and I love it, and I love the passion. But mate, we can't do that. They have to be good enough.
He's good.
Is he better than Edison? Yes or no?
At the moment, questionable. But Edison's not committing to say, is he? Has he signed an extension? No.
Right. All right then. Here's one. If the buyback was so easy, because we have got a buyback and we've got a sell on, why is he not here? It's an easy deal.
We get 20%.
Did you want to bring Delap back? Great point. Did you want to bring Liam Delap back?
No.
Why?
He won't get in the team, would he?
Right. So Delap, who was scoring goals in the Premier League, or Trafford, who's saving goals in the Championship, and you're saying one's better and one's not ready?
I think Trafford's ready now.
No, Alan, and that's your opinion. And this is my new thing.
It's my opinion. Listen, if Edison decides to sign an extension, right, for more money because he deserves more money, right, then fine, stay as we are. But if he's not prepared to sign an extension, then we have to look.
I agree. I totally agree. But I'm not.
And we've got to consider him, especially with our quota problems.
But that's the other thing that worries me now. I don't just want to buy anybody because of the quota. Gibbs White, I was in the minority. I thought Gibbs White was a quality player.
I think he is.
Right? But is Reinders better than him? Yes. Is Tajani Reinders a better player than Morgan Gibbs White? Probably yes. Well, on a technical level, yes.
Yeah, well, he's our best buy in my opinion. We bought.
Yeah, no, quite right. So, but if the club had said to me, Reinders and Gibbs White, I can't choose one because of a homegrown quota.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Trafford's not a bad player. 100% I get it. He's a very good player and he's decent. But I just think we've got to be... I don't want to buy someone for the sake of buying him. And that's what I think we're doing with Trafford.
I think if we gave Trafford a chance, if Edison said, I'm not signing an extension, and we brought Trafford in, he's our goalkeeper for the next 10 years, mate.
Who, Trafford?
Yeah.
You really don't think there's better out there?
No.
Let me, and big up the panel, big up the chat. Glad to see everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day.
Evening, Ed.
This is how I feel about Trafford, right? I think he is a good keeper, but I would want more of a experienced keeper. I would want a keeper that's experienced Champions League before. You know, I would want a keeper that's been in multiple big games, big atmospheres. I'm not saying anything bad about the Championship because I know there's great atmosphere there. But when you're stepping up to Man City, you're playing against Bayern Munich. You're playing against Real Madrid. You're playing against Atletico. You're playing against Liverpool. So I'm just saying and when he's faced that level of competition, he didn't look that good.
That was 2.5-3 years ago.
That was last year though. So it wasn't
last year at all. It wasn't last year. Mate, he was a kid then. He was 18, 19. There's a bit of a difference now. You do get better when you're young, and you get better and you get ready for it. And he has performed this year, mate, without any shadow of a doubt. And he's got an English squad because of it.
I've just had a look at his stats against Edison, and looking side by side, Trafford actually does seem to have some really good numbers. So I can understand from a numbers point of view
I'm not taking out his number. I'm thinking about if Edison does not extend and commit to Manchester City Football Club, then we have to look. And I would rather go for someone who's got a huge amount of talent, that was one of our own, which he is, right? Who's built for the job and has just got himself in the squad.
That's the reason you're pushing it. You just said it exactly. He's one of our own.
He is.
This is the problems that we've gone in and has put us into this situation, because we've done this one of our own sentimentality stuff.
He's good enough, Martin. He's ready.
Okay. James Trafford to Newcastle, here we go. Is that what's happened? I don't know.
I think they're just putting that. I'll be disappointed if he goes to Newcastle when we could have got. If Edison turns around in 2 weeks' time and says, "I'm going," right, and James Trafford's gone to Newcastle, I'll be fucking furious. That's another one.
I have no doubt you would. I know you would.
Definitely.
I'm sure you're going to swing it from the chandeliers and you'll shout and everything else. I 100% understand that. Yeah. But here's my question back then. Think about this. Who was the manager in the season he was in the Premier League? Just think about this now with a sensible thought in your head. Who was his manager when he was in the Premier League?
Sean Dyche.
No. No. Vinny Company was his manager at Burnley.
Right, okay.
Right? Who dropped him for the last 10 games and put Muric back in?
Vinny.
Right? Who's one of the favourites to take over Pep in 2 years?
Vinny.
I mean, I'm going to put it from this way, where I think both points are valid, because Alan, I totally understand. He is, from the numbers, from what I'm looking at numbers, he looks very good. And again, I can see that he's a talented young player. He's 22, and for a goalkeeper standards, that's really young. I mean, the peak for a goalkeeper is, 28, 29 plus, isn't it really? So he's got a long way to go. And those numbers, yes, can go up and get better, but also he has been playing in the Championship, as Martin has said, where the levels are good, but compared to the Premier League, and then you want to put him up against the Champions League, teams of Real Madrid.
Yeah, I know. He's young.
He hasn't been tested yet, is what I'm trying to say. Is at the levels that we need, he hasn't been tested yet. And I think for City, I think for them currently, it's just too much of a risk. Now, Alan, you can say, yes, they're wrong, and that's your opinion, mate. And I can understand that opinion, because I can see, in an ideal world, mate, I'd like him to come in and be back up to Edison and prove himself. But I just don't think that's what he wants. I think he wants first team at the moment. I think the more likely thing will happen is Edison stays another year, and Trafford will probably go somewhere.
How long's Edison's contract?
1 year left.
Jesus Christ! Why is he not extended?
He's denied it.
At the moment, it looks like he wants to go.
Fucking get Trafford in then.
But this is my thing. Like, my whole thing is
fucking game in.
You can't have a project player as your goalkeeper. That's like the one position you can't be like, well, he's young, so he'll make some mistakes. I mean, that's a vital position. And if you're the one making the mistakes,
with all due respect, Edison makes mistakes occasionally.
And the thing is,
Ed finish. You're not his agent. Let Ed finish. We agreed this in the meeting.
Sorry.
Why are you passionate on it?
No, but I'm just saying, right? Like, I don't think we're in the space or the time to be taking a chance on another young player. I feel like how the fan base is, if Trafford is making some mistakes and being a young player, we know how this fan base is. And if the fan base is piling on top of him, is he going to be able to go through that adversity?
100%.
Because It's not. I'm not talking about the fans in the stadium. I'm talking about online. That's another thing that comes with experience, that comes with being at big clubs, is dealing with the fan bases too.
Yeah.
And I would say it's just
Valid
not
point.
about the fan base. I think I agree to that point that goalkeeper is not the position we can take a risk. I think we need an experienced player, and even if Edison goes, in my opinion, Trafford shouldn't be the first choice we should go for. We should go for. I know Costa makes mistakes, but he would be a better choice than Trafford, and obviously Chevalier would be the optimum answer for this solution. So I would say even if Edison goes, Trafford should be the second or the third choice keeper, not the first choice keeper. So, like first choice replacement. So I think others are more experienced than him, and even if they are more expensive, I think we should go for them rather than just focusing on Trafford because we can get him back. But if he wants to go somewhere else and start as number one goalkeeper, and if they are not at City's level, which Newcastle is not at this point of time, then he should go there. And if he's still a great player in 2 3 years, and we are looking for a new keeper in 3 years' time, we can still go and try to get him later on. But for now, go for a more experienced player who can just come in and straight away become the number one goalkeeper at Man City, play Champions League matches pretty well because the how the Champions League season went last season, no one wants that to be repeated next season. So everyone wants we have to compete very well in Champions League and Premier League next season. So we need an experienced player. If Edison, great. If not, then some other experienced keeper. Like that's my point on it.
That's quite. That he needs to sign an extension then.
Listen,
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. If he doesn't sign an extension, we should get someone else, but some other experienced keeper. That's my point.
Yeah. We're going to move on to the goalkeeper because we spent quite a bit of time on them. But for me, just the last point is, I think City have slightly at blame to this because they've known the situation with both goalkeepers for a while now that both potentially wanted to leave. They're both on their final years, and it's been a bit of a mess, along with a lot of other players that maybe should have left earlier. So for me, it's one of those where I think ultimately probably both will stay because City just can't afford to get a replacement for both currently.
It's a good debate.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. And we know how passionate you are about it, Alan. I hope you're just as passionate about the other players that are looking like we may have to look at. So let's move on to, as Rich said probably, 10, 15 minutes ago, to the centre-backs issue. And we're probably going to have to delve on a right back as well while we're at it.
I'll leave that. Right backs.
We'll keep those for the moment. Let's just stick to outgoings for now. So we'll start with the centre backs. I think the ones that have been heavily linked are Stones, Ake, and Akanji. Are the ones that are looking like that someone might go. Well, they could all stay. Who knows? But I think at least one will go. And as off by magic, Martin has got them on screen. So we are quite stacked in the centre-back issue, and especially now that we've brought in an actual left-back, which is still shocking to say, I think. I'm still shocked that we've actually got a left-back.
First time in 8 years, isn't it?
Yeah. Who wants to jump on this then?
Can
Martin?
I say?
No, Alan, I'm going to give Martin the floor because he hasn't had a lot to say so far. Martin, what are your thoughts, mate?
I think it's a very difficult situation. I mean, Nora, obviously not going anywhere. Kanji, I'd keep Ake. I'd keep Diaz. I'd keep Josko Gavardi. I'd keep Kushinoff. I'd keep Rico Lewis. Victor Hayes. I'm still young enough. Rico Lewis is the one I'm really on at the minute because I don't see where he gets in. John Stones, Kyle Walker, and Wilson Esperand, I think will all go. Other than that, I'm only looking at Wilson Esperand, Walker, John Stones, and maybe Rico Lewis. I don't see Akanji moving. I don't see, because my thing with Akanji is, where are you going to get a player with that versatility and that amount of game time for 14 million again? To get someone of Akanji's level, you are talking 60, 70 million quid. And the market's already on its arse for valuations. You are not very rarely going to get an Akanji out for 40 million quid again. He's a Swiss international, and people are just ditching him very easily over a few mistakes, and suddenly being injured is now his fault. He still played nearly 3,000 minutes last year, you know.
He played a lot of them.
I don't know where his beliefs come from that he's suddenly never played. He was injured all of the season. He was playing injured, but is that not showing a set of bollocks? He's showing cause. When last season there was a lot of finger pointing of these players don't care, they're down tools. Well, you don't down tools when your groin's hanging out. And I don't mean in the perverse way. I mean literally his groin muscle was going. Hence the operation. And we're quite willing to chuck him away because we think something's better coming in the door. Kanji's not a right back. He's not even a centre back. He's literally a man of all trades. 14 million quid, and we're really just to. And then the other thing, Diaz, because what? I'm sorry, I'm going to sound so crude here. I don't care who he's shagging. You all may, some may do. You may be a bit jealous because he's got Maya Jama.
Good on him.
I'm sick to the bit. It's Maya Jama nonsense. Last season, when Diaz and Gvardiol were the back pairing in the last 10 games, we were the best defensively we've been all season.
Yeah.
But apparently, Diaz is a bag of shit and needs to be shipped out, and Akanji's lost the plot. I get his opinions, but opinions are not always facts. I like to deal in facts as well. And statistically, Ruben Diaz and Joshua Gvardiol were our best back line pairing last season, and the stats showed that. Ow.
Another fact, if someone needs to go because of injuries, I would just take out John Stones right now. Like, in my opinion, as Jack needs to go, John Stone also needs to go. Like, he has been so consistently unfit and injured for last 2-3 seasons. And I don't care how good he is when he plays, but he doesn't play. Like, so for me, if one centre back needs to go, he needs to be John Stone. And like, I think if John Stone goes and all other centre backs are same, I would keep them all. I would keep Ake. I would especially keep Akanji because I think Akanji is so underrated. He is very versatile. He is not the first or the second choice centre back, but he is great for the team. He can fill in many games for us. So I would especially keep Akanji, and I would try to sell John Stone as much as possible this season.
It's a good job Rich isn't here, Darmish, because you'd be on easy.
I know. I was actually hoping he was here because
this is about. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Dash, but
Yeah.
Elder Diaz can stay with Yas Priusov against Kushner. No, he don't. What we're doing here. Look, this is what we're doing now. We put Kushner up to a Diaz level.
Nowhere near.
Diaz is come on. Kushner is going to be amazing, but we're doing this. You're comparing an apple and an orange here.
Kusanov is good for the future. I think he has shown very good glimpses when he was playing last season. And I think, like, I have confidence in him. If Diaz is not playing, I'm confident that Kusanov will play well. But obviously, he is not at that level right now. And Diaz is obviously our first choice centre back. So, yeah.
Alan, where are you at with the back?
Well, if you bring up that list again, if you don't mind, you just bring up the list again. Sorry, Martin. Just bring up the list. I personally think the whole of that, the bottom line here, right? With John Stones, Walker, and Wilson Esbrand. John Stones is heartbreaking because when he's fit, he's our best defender by a mile, by a long way. But his injury problems have really caused a problem. So you have, and with the salary he's getting, that's an issue for me. And then he wanders off playing for England. Do you know what I mean? That frustrates me. And he usually gets injured when he goes there. Walker, we all know, it's just time. He's got old and his legs have gone. It's time for him to go. Rico Lewis, he's not a fullback. He's a midfield player. For a start for me.
He ain't getting in midfield, Alan, which we'll show you in a minute.
I know. So maybe it's time for him to maybe go out on loan. The other ones can all stay. Diaz is the only leader we have got in the back four. His voice and his control of that back four is essential. And just because he's bending some presenter on TV over every night makes no difference to me whatsoever.
I mean, you could have put that in a bit better. I mean, I said shagging, but I didn't go into the direct.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? But the end of the day, as long as he plays all right for City and controls that back four, because when he's not there in that back four, sometimes our back four are all over the shop, which is true. To me, he should be captain next year. He should be captain for me.
Fair point there, Alan. Ed, what are your thoughts, mate, on our back line?
I agree with Martin. I think John's. I mean, we already know Walker and Esbrand are going, but John Stones, I think, just with his injury record and where we're trying to go and how many games we're about to be playing, it probably is time to move on from him. Rico Lewis is very interesting because Martin knows this. I've been saying this in spaces. I don't know. I don't even know if he's going to be able to make the squad on match day for a lot of games. So, and I know it's like, well, we keep him. I'm kind of thinking for his career too, because he is getting to that point to where he's about to be 22, 23. And, he's going to want to go out there and make his name known. And sometimes you'll want to hold back players. But I think I agree with Alan when it comes to probably with everybody on here, that Diaz is my starting center back.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I know sometimes as fans we want that new shiny toy, and we just want to see something new. And Husanov has a lot of huge potential, but I think Diaz is that perfect person for him to grow under.
Yep,
for him to get information from.
He's a leader, mate.
Yeah, and he's going to learn a lot because you just don't want to throw Husanov to the wolves because he did rebound very well after Chelsea, but I don't want to put him in that position again.
Yep. Totally agree.
So, and then Vardy will be my other starting center back, and then depending on what we're doing with Hayes, I mean, Ake, I think Hayes is probably going to go on loan or EDS, in my opinion. And then Ake is your backup. Akanji is a great backup across the whole back line. I don't know why people want to get rid of him. I mean, he's not a starter now, but at the same time, you need guys like that in your squad who are versatile, who can, in emergency situations, can play along the whole back line. He can play any position along the back line. You're not going to find a lot of players with that.
Yeah, for me, I've got to say, it feels we're moving away from having all centre backs or having those versatile centre backs. We're now getting in a left back and potentially now getting a new right back in. I think we are moving away from that. I think, we are going to see a new or an old way of playing, the traditional way of playing. Maybe we look at things. So I think for me, with the way that we're going and with the players we're bringing in, I think we're going to have to say goodbye to a centre back or at least two, because there's not going to be the room for them. So for me, you have to start looking at the centre backs that are going to be versatile enough to stay, and able to contribute going forward. Kanji is definitely one for them. For me, we know Ake can do it as well. Slight concerns maybe with his injury record, but it's one of those. I think with obviously the likes of Walker, he's gone. Same with William S. Brown, and with Hayes, he probably will go out on loan or in the academy. It's looking like at the moment. So I think the one that's the conundrum for me is Rico. I don't know where he really fits, because we know he's not a right back. He can't step into a centre back role, and the midfield, where does he really play? And he is a wonderful player. And I think there are times where he stood out and shone, but it's realistically, where is he going to get into that midfield now?
I actually really like Rico when he plays, and I think it will really depend on if we sign a right back or not. If we end up not signing a right back, I think Rico will stay and should stay, because I think in that situation, Rico, Akanji, and Nunes would be rotating on the right back position in case we don't sign a right back. If we sign a right back, then I agree, Rico getting into the team might be difficult. But if we don't sign a right back, I think Rico.
I think we will. I think we ultimately
will.
A right back for Maurice Darmish. I think it's going to happen because we need it to happen if we're going to have a left back and a right back and centre backs. For me, it has to happen really to go with the new system, as I've said, or the old system, however you want to look at it. So I think we will sign a right back, and Martin's going to, I'm sure, give us some updates on right backs soon. So we'll move on now, because as Martin has kindly moved the screen down, we have got the midfielders to talk about.
Well, can I just talk on this one second? My apologies, mate. If you don't mind.
Go on then.
It's just because you mentioned Rico, and someone said there, why not move him into midfield? This is the problem. You have got Oscar Bob, Ryan Cherky, Jeremy Doku, Echeverri, Foden, Grealish, Gundogan, Kovacic, James McAtee, Nico J, Mateus Nunes, Nico Riley. Peroni's going on loan, Phillips, so that's okay. But you've still got Tijani Randers, Rodri, Savio, Bernardo Silva. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Martin, let's just cut out the wingers for a second, because we've never seen Rico play as a winger. So I think the likes of Doku and Savio and possibly Bob. I think.
All right, so you want to just say?
I think we just look at the central midfield for now, because the wings is slightly different.
All right, Oscar Bob 1, Cherky 2, Echeverri 3, Foden 4, Gundo 5, Kovacic 6, Gonzalez 7, Nunes 8 if you don't use him as a right back, O'Reilly 9, 10, 11, 12. Before you
again with O'Reilly, you could argue that he may be a left back possibly.
I don't see him as a left back because you've got.
No, I don't either. But I'm just saying, because he was there at the end of last season.
There.
I know, and this is your point, isn't it?
Problem that I have said for so long. There is a big squad, and then there's this.
But now, Martin, sorry to cut you off, but I know you've been saying about O'Reilly, but I think he's the perfect left back to have as backup for the system that we want to play. Because if he's not there, Ake or Vardio is not going to give you the same up the pitch as he would.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good backup to have for the system that we're moving to.
And he's the one who won't make a fuss if he doesn't play too much because he's a youngster.
Both valid points.
So people are saying we've only got 5 midfielders. We haven't. Bernardo Silva, Rodri, Reinders, O'Reilly. Right, whether you like it or not, Nunes is not an official right back. Yeah, he's still a midfielder. And they're not wingers. See, you got to. This is what we're doing. They're not wingers. Oscar Bob is not a natural winger. He can play wing. That's the point we're making, or Ozzy's making on Rico Lewis. His natural position is a midfielder, but he's being used as a right back. His natural position is a midfielder. Oscar Bob's natural position is a number 10, actually.
Yeah.
But so this is what we're doing. Because there's so many bodies, we're chucking Bernardo as a winger. We're chucking Echeverri as a winger. We're making players wingers because it's so crowded in there. Now, yes, I agree. 2 or 3 will probably go. I've not included Phillips, and I've not included Perona, and I've not included McAtee. So who goes? This is my question. Who goes? Grealish will go. So let's count who we think is going to go.
Well, you discussed it, Martin. These are your picks. So
Grealish, I think Grealish goes. I think Gundo goes. Kovacic stays because he's had the operation. McAtee goes. Peroni goes. Phillips goes. That's all I see going. How many does that leave you with still? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Who can all play in their natural position of midfielders.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Elliot, you didn't want everyone watch yesterday, mate.
I think with the ones you've just excluded, I think you could probably I think Kovacic, I think he's going to be out until possibly January.
Well, the exact quote I've just had this is Kovacic would have gone, but the operation saved him.
Yeah, and I don't think it's completely saved him because he's going to be out possibly up until beginning of next year because an Achilles injury is quite serious, and an operation to have it on as well can lay you up for quite a while. I think there's a potentially that come January, City might try and see if they can move him on in January. It wouldn't surprise me if I'm honest. So I think at the moment, I think you can count him as not being in the squad anytime soon, or maybe not again. So I think you can probably count him out as well, Martin.
I like it. Is it more rotation? But I mean, yeah, everyone's going to say rotation, but yeah, City are playing a big game. Rodri's playing.
Okay, Dash, Ed, what are your thoughts on outgoing players? Who do you think is likely to go out of that midfield positions?
I think Christ is thinking about the situation. No one is, because Elliot, we don't know, do we? That's the thing. We're guessing, right? I know what you're saying.
You can go first, man.
Go on, Dash.
Yeah, I think in terms of outgoings, I'm pretty much similar to Martin. That I think the players he listed, I think they would definitely go. In terms of Kovacic, like, to be honest, I don't really want him to go if it's between him and Bernardo. Like, I know Bernardo is a much better player than Kovacic in general, but I would say Kovacic can be more versatile for us, especially as a defensive midfielder. And we have good enough creative players now. Reinders and Cherky would be a great addition. And considering Foden would play at least better than last season, considering that, I think we should be okay in terms of creativity in the midfield. But in terms of defensive midfielders, I think if it's Rodri, Nico, and Kovacic, I would be much more confident because, like last season, we cannot expect the season to go injury free. I am not hoping anyone gets injured, but still, if someone gets injured, we need covers as well. Or else we would be in the same situation next season that one or two players get injured and suddenly we don't have cover for them. So in terms of defensive midfielders, Kovacic staying, I don't think would be a bad thing for us in the long term for the whole season. But we actually need one more player maybe to leave. I don't know if Bernardo stays or goes, but if he goes, I wouldn't be too much affected by it. I think we have a good enough squad.
So Elliot's put Nunes and O'Reilly. I won't count. Nunes, all right. I'm with you on that because I actually don't. I haven't said this on it. I'm not 100% sure they're my right back. So I think Nunes. I think Nunes could end up doing the job there. Still, sorry, hay fever. My bad. I couldn't mute myself quick enough. My apologies to the audience. O'Reilly, even if you see him as a left back, there's O'Reilly. Sorry, there's Nora, Nathan Acker, and Gavardiol who will all go left back before O'Reilly.
But I won't count Guardiola as left back now. If we are saying that Guardiola and Diaz are our first two starting centre backs, then I won't consider him as a left back as well. Like only player, like I would consider left back backup as players who are already on the bench. If they are already playing as a centre back, I won't consider them as a left back as well. So I would say
I would agree, that's Smith, but I think when it is for me, I need to see that from Pep before I start believing it.
But I think he has started believing it. I think the amount of games Nico O'Reilly played at the end of the season, I think Pep has started to trust him. And I think he had same level of trust that he had, not the same, but similar level of trust that he had Guardiola playing left back, because to make the decision that Guardiola, you are my centre back now, and I will play Nico left back, I think shows that he has trust in him. And if Nori is not playing or he can't play, then I think Nico Riley would be good enough to cover as a left back. And I think he's more similar to Ed Nori because he would be much more attacking than defender. So I think
I get what you and I agree. Well, in the last 3 games of the season, he benched O'Reilly and put Gavardiol back to left back again.
Yeah. I mean, before I bring Ed in, I think for me...
That's not worry with Pep. It's just, with me at the minute, it's a bit of the first time O'Reilly showed any lack of... Gavardiol got shoved back to left back again for the Southampton game. It all got changed back round again. And that's where I'm like that with Pep. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've got to see it from Pep to believe it. I'm not discounting what you're saying. I've not lost any trust in Pep. I just...
Martin.
Need to say it.
Meeting.
I was just replying. Right, carry on.
Short leash I'm putting you on tonight. You carry on. Right.
By the way, Livermental won man of the match for Euro.
Without me, this channel dies, sunshine. You be quiet.
I think that was directed at Ed for some reason. Ed, I do apologise for Martin. I really do. What I was going to say is, I think when it comes to O'Reilly, in all honesty, Darmish, I think you need to. Last season just needs to be kind of in a separate entity. I don't think we can look at last season and think O'Reilly's really going to be given that left back spot at any point, unless it's a cup game, an early round, or injuries. I think realistically, because we've now got a left back. I think you just have to be kind of looking at last season as that was last season. Pepe's now looking at this season and how we're going to move forward with a proper left back. And I know Martin said that he feels Nunes can do a job. He can do a job in a pinch, but I honestly think that City are going to bring in a right back because this is just the way forward. We're going to have a left back, we're going to have a right back, and we have 2 centre backs. So yeah, I think when it comes to Rico, I think we know that Pep still loves him. We know that, you know, he's still very highly thought of. He came through at a point where he skipped progression very quickly and came in and came in at a time where he hit the ground running. Yes, last season he had some difficult periods, but he's still very young. He's still got a lot of time on his side. And
how old is he?
I think is he 21 now, mine?
Rico,
I feel like
yeah, but he has been told he needs to bulk up. He's been told if he doesn't bulk up, he's not going to be able to do the job they want of him.
Well, he's just recently had a bit of a haircut as well, so you know.
No, I mean, well, he needs to bulk his muscle up, not his body hair up.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I think you're going to have to be honest when it comes to Rico. I think he's just going to have to. If he stays, I think he's just going to have to accept that he's going to have to work extremely hard to get into any position when it comes into the first 11, because that's just the way it is. It's ruthless now, and I think that's the way we need to be. Yes, Alan.
I personally think that Rico and O'Reilly, by the end of the season, will want to leave.
Well,
because I think they'll be starved of opportunity. I think they'll ask to leave by either January or the end of the season.
We shall have to wait and see.
Which should be very, very. It should be very disappointing.
It could be, Alan. It could be. I still think there's a possibility that the likes of Gundo and Bernardo may still leave. I could be wrong, but I do feel that their time is definitely done. And I don't think it's bad to have some experience in the team, but I just feel that the players that we've currently got, I'd rather see Rico given a bit more of a chance than the likes of Bernardo or Gundo, if I'm being brutally honest.
I think Gundo could go this pretty much now.
Bloody hell, you turned into Alan from 25 minutes ago.
No, I'm being brutally honest. I just mean in respect of Gundo, for me, I think he's good for coming in for 20, 10, 15 minutes of the game.
He's better than
he was originally put in.
By 100 times.
I know he's better, but I wouldn't disagree with what Ozzy said, that I would give Rico chances because, in my opinion, he can be a great player in the future. So rather than him going somewhere else and becoming a great player, I would rather him get chances for City and be one of the future players for us. So
do we know that's
what about whoa, what about Trafford?
No,
he's not here.
He's
not here.
You asked for that. You asked for that.
He's not a centre. He's not a centre.
You did ask for that, though. Sorry.
No, but goalkeeper is a different debate. But in terms of midfield, he can play cup games. I think, he should get all the starts in the cup games. He should get he can get start in some lower Premier League games. Some, but not much. But I think he should definitely stay and given a chance.
For me personally, I just think with Gundo having a year left on his contract, and the same with Bernardo, and then winding down really now, where we're expecting, especially the likes of Gundo, him to come on for 10 minutes to see out a game, I would rather give those minutes to Rico. I really would, because he's young, he's got the drive, and he wants to prove himself. And I just think, for me, that's the way we should be looking now. I think we need to accept that the old guard need to start moving on. We've already started the process, and the process started with Kev. I think we just need to see it through with some of these players. And even if some players like Bernardo and Gundo stay, I just feel they need to be fourth choice at best, with the likes of who we've got in now and still got. So that's my feeling on this, in all honesty. Ed,
O'Reilly's not leaving. He's signing a new deal, mate. Ricardo, signing a new deal. Sorry, Ozzy, can I just do these? Because Foggy's coming.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realise we had some...
channel memberships. Thank you so much, mate. Really do appreciate that. And has also renewed for his 2-year anniversary. Fogger, W's in the chat for Fogger, absolute legend. I did receive your email, your reply to my reply. So thank you very much. We will meet up, mate, and I hope hospital went well the other day. Sam, as well, thank you for renewing for an 8th month, sir. You are so kind. Really do appreciate that. Elliot, you're with us.
How are we?
I'm fine, mate. Can I ask which side of the continent are you in today?
I'm just at France at the minute.
You met up with Danny?
No, I haven't, to be honest, no. I'm going to message him, to be fair, but leave him to his own devices, I suppose. Oh, pal, you all right, mate?
I'm all right.
I was there.
Right, go on.
Go
on. Because I know you wanted to come on.
Yeah, no, I just think what we're going to do is, I think we've got to probably start and look at a squad instead of the actual starting 11. Ozzy's just hit the nail on the head previously before, where we said about people like O'Reilly, and this is what I've said in the comments. O'Reilly shouldn't have done what he did last season, but I think that was probably down to the circumstances what we was at the time. And don't get me wrong, O'Reilly was probably at a point was probably his best player when you think about it. Like, you go back to the Bournemouth game in the FA Cup, it probably dragged us through that, to be honest. I think O'Reilly's a good player. Do I think he should be a starter for our football club? No, and that's for being honest. The good thing what you have now is you have competition, so you can also say O'Reilly at left back. If not O'Reilly, you've got Nori. If not Nori, you've got Nathan Ake. You could use it like that, and then all of a sudden, then that makes players play better because they know they fear for the position. And things like with what we can do now, we can change things around. If we want to go with 2 out-and-out wingers, we've got the luxury if Doku is to stay, which obviously that's a little bit up in the air, I suppose, at the minute. If he was to stay, you've got Doku and Savino, you've got Savino and Oscar Bob. You can play that. You can play Cherkin and Mamouche, where they can come more inside. We've got options now. This is what we haven't had for the last, I would say, 1.5 years, I'd say, to be honest. And that's where I think we are.
Yeah,
that's where I think we are.
You make some valid points, mate. You really do. I did hear you on the Down Under show talking about Doku, and I wanted to get into you about that because I heard what you said, and I just thought, ooh, really?
Yeah.
I agreed with him, though. Elliot was correct.
Oh, what a surprise, Alan.
Can I just say something about the midfielders?
I'll put it this way. Would you sell Doku to get Rodrigo?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's actually thinking. He's thinking. He's actually thinking.
I'm thinking about it. Can I see it happening, though? I'm not sure if I can see it happening currently. Listen, for me, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, Doku, you don't count his first season because, again, first season bedding in. And I do think his second season, for a lot of people, has been underwhelming, but there's been glimpses where I can see a talent and I can see the player that he can be. And I can see, as I said earlier on, where so many players last season were just god-awful at times. And he falls into that bracket, but I just think he came in, and it feels like the first season continued into the second season because of what happened, what was going on around him, and the effect that had. I still think there is a talented player there. And as I said earlier, you only have to look at that assist he did for Kevin De Bruyne in that last couple of games where he showed. And for me, for a lot of players, a lot of the midfielders, even Harland, weren't getting in the box when he was spraying in those crosses. So it's not just on Doku that we have to kind of look at. I do think other players have to step up and take responsibility for that season. So for me,
mate. Sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry, mate.
No, go on.
For me, what it is, for me, Doku, as a right back against Doku, that's probably a big, big nightmare for any right back in the world. As a centre back, I think they like it because they probably know 9 times out of 10 where that probably cross is going to end up going, and it's probably not going to end up probably going to the right person. Now, I agree with you, and I said this, and I've said this on the spaces a few times with Martin and people. The end product thing, it can work, but we have to also get people in the box, and we have to get runners into the box to help Doku. I agree with that.
Randalls.
I agree with that.
I
Yes,
also think with Nori as well, I think you're also going to have, because a lot of players were doubling up on him. Do you know what I mean? And I think with having Nori there as well, he's going to add something else to that attacking threat. Do you know what I mean? So they're not all going to be able to concentrate on Doku. Do you know what I mean? They're going to have more of a problem going forward into next season. So I think that's where you could see Doku get a lot better.
Yeah,
he needs to get better. He needs to get better, or he'll be dropped. Because I don't think he's good enough.
I just think at the minute, Ozzy, if you was to play, I think it was Martin who said it beforehand about Rodri, about a big game. If you was to play a big game tomorrow, are you starting Doku, or are you starting Mamouche at this minute in time?
Mamouche.
And I think we probably know the answer to that.
See, I'd be amazed if this happens. If Doku and Nori start together, that was shocking.
No chance. No chance.
Maybe a bit chaotic though, Martin. Maybe a bit chaotic though. So let's, like you say, you know my thoughts on Doku, but maybe let me spin it another way. Maybe that might help Doku, because if it's a little bit chaotic, you think about and I know people aren't looking at this a lot, but just look at the assistant manager and look at the front three he had at Liverpool. It was very, very chaotic. It was a bit mental. You had Trent 1 minute. Let's be honest, Trent's really only started inverting, I would say, back end of Klopp's probably time, so what's that, 2 seasons ago? Beforehand, it was probably sort of like overlapping. Same with Andy Robertson on the other side. So you had overlapping fullbacks, and then you had the fact with wingers where they was relentless and they got good GNA and things like that. And that is our problem. We need to spread the goals out. That's one of our biggest issues, I think, in recent times.
Oh, I think we've said that a lot on this channel, that I think we've relied on Harland way too much, and I think not enough players have stepped up to add to the goals. So I totally agree, mate. And I think you're right in saying about Mamouche as well. I think if you're currently looking at it, Mamouche, probably might start above Doku. He has in games since he's come in. I look at someone like Mamouche, and you just think he was brought in as a backup, but his numbers, and I think the way he played at Frankfurt, he was that second striker. He was behind. You could call him that number 10, really, which I still think he could play. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the really good things about the fluidity of a lot of our players, is that we can move them around a lot. The only one we really can't move around is Harland. Do you know what I mean? So, but everyone around him can move around and play in different positions.
Yeah, for me, I don't know whether you heard us on the show yesterday, but I said, for me, just class it as just as you've got Reinders and Rodri as your two just behind, and then just say it's in front, you've got Mamouche, Foden and Cherky, just for argument's sake. For me, I don't want any of them players staying in the same positions. I want them moving around, and I want them to drag teams around. Because let's be honest, what we've done is this season, we'll come up against teams, and we know what's going to happen before they even get the ball, and you're thinking he's going to run down the wing. Doku's probably going to cross it. There's not going to be any arrivals. He's not probably going to get past the first defender. There's no box crashes. Or on the other side, you've got a situation with Savinho where he does a couple of step overs, he gets to the byline, crosses it in, and nothing happens. He's been very, very predictable, and this is what I'm saying. For me, I want a little bit, but I want a lot of change, to be honest. And I think we all do. Probably that's probably where we've become a little bit stagnant.
I don't want to become too chaotic. That's me. I think you become too chaotic, you're going to lose some players. I think some players will go down to no.
There's a balance, isn't there? Let's be fair, Martin, where I think you can see I think with the likes of what Elliot's saying, where I think we did become way too predictable, especially towards the end of last season, it was just give it to Doku and see what he can do.
No, I agree. I think, Alan, you're putting your hand down. You're not in school. I'll come to you, promise. I think we're getting too deep in this Pep Linders thing.
No, I don't. I do.
I think people are talking like Pep Linders is the manager.
No. Wait, Martin, if you're not going to tell me Mikel Arteta weren't, if you're going to not tell me Mikel Arteta weren't a big impact on Pep, then I think you're lying.
No, I agree. But Pep Linders is a failure of a manager.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter though. You all right? Let's look at another case then. Well, one minute then. Brian Kidd.
Right, good number 2 ship manager.
Right, but was it good for Manchester City?
But Mancini was in charge.
No. Right, 1 minute. Was he good at
Not
Manchester City as an
ranked.
assistant? As an assistant, was he good as an assistant?
Yeah,
Yes or no?
but no, Elliot, you misunderstand me. He is the assistant. He'll give ideas.
Well,
The
Craig
final
Bellamy, you can use the same thing as
decision-
Craig Bellamy, Martin. You can use the same thing as Craig Bellamy. At Burnley, he was
Pep
probably a big
Linders
part
is
of
going to
the
start
company.
choosing formations.
I
Then
don't think he's going to choose
then I'm
formations. I
questioning
think
Pep
he's going to put his.
Guardiola.
I think he's going to put his stamp down on things, which is probably what Pep needs. Pep needs somebody to probably say, "Hold on a minute, mate. That there." Pep Linders is probably going to look at it from a Liverpool point of view, as though he's still at Liverpool with Klopp, and go, 1 minute, if you're playing against me and I'm with Klopp at Liverpool, I can play against you. I can play against you day in, day out. Not a problem. Because like Ozzy's just said, what the problem was, you go back to the Southampton game away, we was never going to score. We could have put that game till now, but we're never going to score in that game. For me, something needs to happen where Pep Linders turns on and he goes, hold on a minute, at Liverpool with Mane and Salah, I just went very attacking with my wingers and I went for it. I weren't so much balanced and controlled. Whereas if we do that and we lose the game, you turn around and you go, look, we'll give it a go. You was there and I was there, Martin, at Southampton. We knew we was never going to score.
Yeah, but I don't put all the blame on City on that.
So would you put the blame on?
I think it was City, and I also think, and as a lot of people are saying in football now, stick 10 men on a line, you are going to find it difficult.
This is my point, though. This is my point. This is where Pep Linders is going to be a
It
big
doesn't matter
influence on that. Then
what tactics you do. 10 men on a line is 10 men on a line, and
I don't know. I think Liverpool get more chances against opposition than what we've ever got, to be honest with you, because of our style of football.
I think people have forgotten who won the league when Pep Linders.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is the style of football, Martin. The style of football is a lot more rock and roll than possession based.
I'm not bothered about style. I want to win.
I think the thing
about
is
winning, not entertainment. Entertainment, go to the pictures.
Well, he hadn't had a bad record, has he? Let's just say that at Liverpool, he didn't. Let's not act like Pep Linders and Klopp didn't win stuff, because, like I said, they did complete football. To be fair to them, as much as we dislike saying that.
I've got the doctor on the phone.
Yeah, you go, Martin. Do what you got to do. Listen, I think Elliot. I think you and Martin have both got really good points. I think for me, you need to have an assistant manager that challenges at the right moments. And I think Pep does need to have that. He needs to have the balance where someone will come up to him and go, I'm not sure about this, boss. Do you know what I mean? What about this idea? You always need a really good assistant manager. And Pep Linders is possibly that. He's got ideas, I think where I just slightly disagree with you is I'm not sure Pep is going to completely just go to the way Liverpool play. I don't think it's going to be heavy metal football, but I do think there's a balance there. I do think there is a Pep control and a Linders where he comes in and thinks, and what else can we do? If something's not working, what other way can we look at trying to break down teams? So I think you're right in a lot of respects. Other ways, I just think not so much. But for me, you definitely have to have someone who comes in and challenges. I've got to bring in Alan. I've got to bring in Ed, because both have been very patient, especially you, Ed. But Alan put his hand up first. We'll let Alan have his moment.
I think another factor's got to improve is Harland. Yes, he can score goals, but his football ability and link-up play is still poor, and his movement at times with his body language is poor. Someone said to me the other day, would you prefer a Sergio or a Harland in their prime? And to me, Sergio wins every time because of his overall contribution to what he does. Do you think that Harland needs to kick up the arse and get some more movement in his game and some more work rate? Because when we get facing a low block, he might as well not be on the pitch.
We haven't really moved on to strikers. We've slightly talked about Marmoush, and I was kind of going to leave Harland towards the end, but we'll come back onto that, Alan. We will, because I think we want to finish off with Harland, but let's come back to that. I just want to stick with Linders. I want to stick to the midfield a little bit, and I want Ed to be able to have his say as well, because he's been waiting patiently. So Ed, what are your thoughts, mate, on what we've been saying?
For me, I'm just talking about the midfield first. That I don't think Kovacic has much impact on the squad like he did last season, because now you have a Rangers there, now you have a Nico G there, and you have a Bernardo Silva there that I think all can do a job. So I don't think his position, I think you can move him on if you do want to, in January or next summer. With the winger situation, I mean, I kind of like that we're using Marmoush and a potential of Foden or Cherky, just because it was kind of getting, you kind of were already knowing what we were going to do, what our wingers were going to do, right? Because a Doku is just going to go to byline every time. He might come inside every now and then, but he's not as comfortable. And then with a Savinho, with his shooting at times, you didn't have much faith that he was going to. I mean, I remember countless times, especially against Spurs, right? He had like a couple clear-cut chances, and he just shanked all of them. So I have more faith in Marmoush scoring those goals for me, and also the link-up play that he can provide with a Nori, with a Harland, with the 10. So, yeah.
Sorry, I've got to go, Ozzy, because work. Sorry, mate.
No, that's fine, mate. I appreciate you got to drop. So, thanks for coming on. We'll catch up soon.
Bye.
Elliot, what are your thoughts of my rebuff and anything that Edge just kind of said as well, mate?
No, go on. I'll let Darsh go first. Get his thoughts on it. I went beforehand, so I'll let him go.
Fair enough. Go on, Darmish.
Yeah, just mainly on the wingers thing. I agree with Ed that Savio's shooting has been very poor this season, and he really needs to improve on that. And I would say Marmoush for me is one of the starters in the coming season. I think he needs to start the games. Like, he is the number one starter for me, like one of the main starters in the team right now. If we consider all our team, all the team. And I think one midfielder which got a big pass this last season is Phil Foden, and he deserved that pass of a season. That okay, you didn't perform, he was not up to the mark, but he will get that grace because he has been great for us for years now. But I think this season he has to, if not at the level of the player of the year, he at least needs to perform way better than last year. And I think if we consider him as one of the starters, he needs to improve. So he is one of those players who actually have to play much better, have to chip in with goals as well, because last season he was missing. That was affecting our overall numbers as well. And in terms of right wing, I think we are all excited about Cherky, but obviously we don't know how Pep will use him. Like, if he'll play one of the midfielders, if he'll start as a right winger. So I think that would be exciting to know how Pep uses him and how much he plays, because I think because he's a new signing, everyone is very excited about it, but I don't think he will start a lot of games in the initial 5-6 games. I think we might see him 1 or 2 games, and he can come as a substitute often, but I don't think he will start a lot of games considering what the team we have right now. So, but I think my focus is on Foden this season. He has to improve.
Yeah, I think there's no denying that Foden had a really off season, and I think there are various reasons. I think there's some health issues, some mental health issues that he needed to work through. We know. I don't think we can doubt Phil Foden as a player. We know how skillful he is. We know that he stepped up when Kevin De Bruyne was out for half a season. Do you know what I mean? So we know he's talented, and we know he can turn it on So I have no doubts about Phil Foden going into next season. I think he'll prove it yet again. I just think, the thing for Phil is that he's got a lot of competition around him right now, which isn't a bad thing because, as I've said before, for me, we need to have competition. We need to have players that are fighting to get off the bench, that, are not just there to warm the bench up. I seriously want, and I know Pep is talking about he wants a small squad, but if he wants a small squad, then I want a small bench that has got quality players that are hungry to get off that bench and say, no, actually, I deserve to be in the starting 11. So I think, for me, it's really exciting this coming season. We've got so much to look forward to with players that have come in, but also players that are returning to fitness and for various reasons. So, yeah, I think it's a bright future we've got right now. Elliot,
yeah, go on. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, I've just had a look there, right? So all I've done, right, is I've just gone back to the treble squad. Obviously, the last game against, I think, obviously into Milan, the final. And I've just looked at the squad, right? And when you look at it, so you've got Edison in there, obviously Kyle Walker, Akanji, Diaz, Stones, Akanji, Rodri, Gundogan, KDB, obviously Bernardo, Grealish, and obviously Harland. But then, like, when you look at the bench, you had like people like Mahrez on the bench, people like Alvarez like on the bench. We had a good squad. Where I think this is probably where we've probably weakened a lot. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. He come on, didn't he, for KDB? And to be honest, he was very good. To be fair, say like sort of come on in the final. Phil was very good, but we've had this thing where I think was it the Sheffield United? Yeah, the Sheffield United semi-final game in the FA Cup when Morris played, he scored a hat trick, and then like the game after it was dropped. But like this is what we had. We had this sort of team, and I think this is probably where we need to get back to a little bit. I think we need to probably have more competition on the bench. Just little people like Oscar Bob, for me, who, like, they've got a... He was probably his best player, wasn't he, to be fair? Funny enough, in like probably that start of last season, before obviously he did his knee. But I really think with players like that, I don't think we can go places, especially when people are challenging against each other. Like say you've got a situation where we've got some decent young players coming through now as well. People like Napam, Gonzalez, Kusanov, Victories, Echeverri, like Doku, Savinio, Oscar Bob. Yeah, they're all young. You look at his age, it's very, very, even like Harland. Look how, like say, Harland can get better and learn. And I think I agree with Al. I think he does need to probably get a little bit better with his body language. Shall I say? But no, I think his signings have been very good, and I think obviously we can build on what we've done now with the signings. I think we've got on top of it, and we can get rid of players if we need to, if they feel like the right price comes in. Obviously, I know Pep mentioned about the squad, didn't, and the squad size, but I don't know. Does anyone actually know how many he's actually took to the Club World Cup? Has it actually
27?
27, right?
Yeah. So the only players that haven't gone is Jack and Walker. McAtee as well.
Yeah.
So
So like I say, maybe look at something like that then. But then I suppose the problem then is you're going to probably still have to leave some people at home. But for me, yeah, you've got to leave people like Echeverri at home. If it's a McAtee, if McAtee was to stay, I don't think he will do. But if McAtee was to stay, you have to drop him from the team. Rico Lewis, you have to drop these people from the team because they're young, but if they're not going to fit that sort of mould in that game, and that's not the way we're going to play, then put someone on the bench who is going to help. You know what I mean? We can use that to our advantage. If you know what I mean. You know?
We have to compensate for at least 2-3 players who might be injured at a certain point of time. So I think we need to keep that.
I also think, Darvish, you've got to think about the likes of Bob and Rodri, because they're both coming back from injuries. And with these type of injuries, yes, it was great to see Rodri at the end of the season, and he looked good. He looked, he still looked quite, not completely fully back up to speed, and that's understandable. To be that game ready, match ready, it takes a bit of time. But I just think coming back from a serious injury, I think we can't automatically think that he's going to start next season. He may need a few games to bed in, and ultimately, I have to be honest here, he may not come back the same player.
Who's that? Who's that, Ozzy? Who's that, Ozzy? Is that Bob or Rodri?
Rodri.
Yeah. No, I said this. I said
there's that possibility. I think, and I think that goes for Bob slightly. The difference with Bob is that he's young enough. He can. But I think with the likes of Rodri, I think we have to accept that, there's a possibility he may not come back the same player. A lot of players like Rodri have had the injuries and not quite come back like they were. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, there is a possibility, but I would rather think that he would come back, like not quickly, but he would come back as
you're looking January, aren't you, Damesh?
Yeah,
I think you're looking Damesh. Yeah. I think you're looking January, aren't you, mate? I think that's probably like say that's probably where we need to be a little bit fair and probably say if he's not sort of getting back to form around January, then probably we need to. Yeah, then obviously I think we've got a discussion to have, but I do think we've helped ourselves by signing people like Reinders around him. You've got Kovacic, once Kovacic's come back obviously from an operation. I thought Gundogan looked good, to be fair, back end of last season. Bernardo looked good with back end of last season.
As well.
Exactly, Ozzy, yeah. Like you say, he can play a little bit further forward, can't he? And yeah, like I say, I think it's looking good at the minute, man. And yeah,
can I just jump in on this? I do apologise. I've had to move to the car because I'm on the move now. Genuine question, and I need to know this because I don't know if it's a City thing or the football fanism of 2025 thing. How come we're very doom and gloom? Is it the season we've had? Because you know what I mean. Foden's had a bad season. Well, what I'm saying, Foden doesn't come back. Rodri, what I'm saying, Rodri don't come back. Everything's if buts, maybes, and it's the worst case scenario.
No guarantees in life.
Over any player.
Yeah, there's no guarantees.
But I don't hear any other fan base. No other fan base talks like this, Elliot.
I think Liverpool did with Van Dijk. I think Liverpool did with Van Dijk when he did his.
Yeah, look what happened. And look how he came back.
No.
Right, it's very doom and gloom, though.
No, that is what I was saying.
We are confident. It's not doom and gloom, Marty. I think we're looking at this and being just objective. I'm not being doom and gloom. I'm just saying there's a possibility. Do you know what I mean? I think most.
All right, well, I'll switch it back the other way. No other players come back as quick from an ACL than Rodri. Let's get a bit of positivity in the room. Come on now.
Sorry, Mr. Happy Clapper.
Yeah.
Positivity. You lot, bloody hell. You lot go to a wedding and make it a bloody wake, don't you?
I don't know. Right, I'm gonna.
I know what you look like.
Yes, Martin, we know what you're like.
You're them people at a wedding. Look at her, she looks fat in that dress. Don't you look beautiful, love? You look like a picture. Ugly bitch.
Wow. Sorry. I'm not going anywhere near that with a barge pole, guys. So I'm just really going to move away from Martin's comments there. Right, we are going to wrap up soon because Martin's on the move, and I'm sure he's got things that he needs to do. And we're getting up to the mark now of 2 hours. So I'm just going to finish off on Harland because Alan did bring it up, and I think we've touched on it slightly, but I want everyone to have their say on Harland. So let's go around the room. Ed, what are your thoughts?
I think we all know Harland needs to maybe do better runs or better positioning in the box, like maybe some more near post, because a lot of times now he goes to the back post a lot of times for crosses or when there's just plays in the box. And maybe, hopefully with the assistant coach coming in too, with the pressing, maybe he improves with there or he just looks more engaged. But overall, I was satisfied with what Harland did on the pitch. I know sometimes we are too harsh on some of our players because if you look at what Harland had this year from a service perspective, the man in all comps still got you 34, 35 goals. And we're all saying here about how we're basically have a whole new midfield from last season that wasn't adequate enough from a creation perspective. When you think about the drop-off from Foden, when you think about the lackluster performance from a Doku, a lackluster performance from a Savinho, for him to give you 34, 35 goals yes, we can have some complaints about his runs at times, but that's still a world-class level with what he had to play with. And I think we saw when he had somebody like a Marmouche to maybe link up with sometimes, you saw the best of him. So, I know, he can improve and nobody's
I think Harland was poor, Ed. I think Harland was poor. I think you've been a bit generous there. I think Harland was a little bit poor.
That's my guy. Hey, man, I know he didn't, but no, I mean, if we're looking at strikers, I see a lot of people talking about Alvarez this, Alvarez that. This was his best. And Harland still got you same goals output.
Yeah, we're very retrospective. We're very in the past. No one talked about Cole Palmer the way they do now. No one talks about Morgan Rogers then the way they do now. This is my part on the phone. It's like KDB. Now, 3 months earlier, half the fan base wanted him out, and then at the end, how come City are a disgrace? What we're doing, letting him go? Like I said, and Elliot made a great point to me once. When everything's going bad, all you do is go bad. Everything's bad. Everything's bad in the world. And everything's the worst case scenario. And when things are good, nothing's ever bad. Even when things can need improving. Because you're on that crest of the wave. And I think that's where, at the moment, I think, in a way, and I'm going to sound very patronising, and not patronising, very flip-flop, but I would like to win the Club World Cup to bring back the winning mentality back to the fan base and the players and the club. Because I think even with the new players, yes, we're excited, but we've still got the doom and the gloom, Elliot. That black cloud hasn't quite left over the stadium yet. It's still there. And that's why we're going, what if Foden doesn't come
but
back?
I think, like you said, once we're back in there, though, and it's the first game of the season, and probably the sunshine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we need a good walloping. I think, we need to wallop someone, don't we? We need to give someone a walloping 5 or 6-0 and get that. Can I ask, sorry, come on, City. I don't understand that comment, mate.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why did you think about such in the first? I don't know what that means, so my apologies.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Big up to the LB Raiders. See, look at this, Ozzy. They turn up late because LB does another 7-hour stream.
Good old
Ozzy, can I just make an announcement? The reason I've moved is my dad's been moved to a hospital. He's going down to a specialist dementia ward in the Birmingham area. So I am going to be on the road now for 2 hours. So there will be a space to keep me entertained. Otherwise, I'll just be crying all the way down there. I'm just doing it just to keep me entertained. So yes,
and I think you
there will be no waffle.
I thought you mentioned some news earlier on.
There will be no waffle. There will be no waffle show tomorrow as well. So my apologies, because I was meant to be on a stag do. I'm still hoping to get on it in Liverpool. There was some news. Am I all right sharing it, Ozzy? Sorry, mate. Can I just share this news? I know you want to wrap up, mate.
Go for it. Go for it, mate.
That's good news. That, to be fair, I don't good news. That.
Sorry,
goes quiet.
Sorry, did I lose you then? Sorry, Cheeky has officially left the club today. So, big up, Cheeky. Thank you for everything, mate. Have a great retirement, whatever you do. The two names, I will now give you the two names for right back. They are Hector Fort. One of them is called Hector Fort.
Barcelona. You're Barcelona thinking of.
Yeah. And the other one is is it Galatasaray fullback? Bowie.
Oh, Bayern Munich.
Is he Bayern Munich? I thought it was Galatasaray.
Yeah, I think he went from Galatasaray. Oh, he's on loan. He's on loan.
Oh, that's what I mean. He's on loan at Galatasaray.
Oh, no, I thought did he not sign for Bayern Munich from Galatasaray?
I think you think about it.
I don't know.
Might think of someone else. I thought, did he not?
There's a player out there that might be that we're looking at. That's as much as we really know, I think.
Because the dude at Bayern Munich had a lot of injuries.
Sancho Bowie.
Yeah, that's the Bayern Munich. Yeah, that's Bayern Munich.
Yeah, Bayern Munich. Yeah.
Yeah, he's now been added. He's now been added to the list as well as the Fort guy from Barcelona.
He's a good player, to be fair, that other lad from Barcelona. I think he's only like 17, 18. I think there's quite a big lad. There's a few clubs in that I think we're looking at him, to be fair, but
yeah, I mean, again, for me, very young players, the experience maybe for me, I don't think is fully there. Me personally, I'm still going to be on the Livramento train right now because I think he's the best person right now that I think we've still been linked with, and I still think for me, I just think he fits so many, he ticks so many boxes. Really, he really does. So,
how much was it? How much would you pay for much?
Honestly, I think we're going to have to be brutally honest. I think the fee is going to be probably a world record for a right back. Sorry, because one, he's English. Two, he's at Newcastle, and they don't need to sell. And three, he's a talent. You know, I really do. You don't have to look at the games that he's played. You know, he's played up against Salah. He's played up against some of the best wingers in the world, and he's done so well. I think, and he's, for me, it's been said like he's England's right back for the next decade. Do you know what I mean? And he plays at left back as well, and he's so versatile. He's a pet player. Let's be honest. So, for me, I think.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a Newcastle fan in the chat, and they're going to go absolute. They're going to go mad at you.
They've been doing it all night.
I'm sorry, but we're not a Newcastle channel fan, so
I'm just pre-warning you because they're getting very touchy when you mention any of their players. They get very touchy.
I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. You know, we did the same to Arsenal back in the day, so I'm not going to apologise. Sorry, guys. One of my best mates is a Newcastle fan, and I've already had this debate with him. So, again, I respect Newcastle, but at the end of the day, yes, Newcastle are starting to creep up now in the Champions League, blah, blah, doing wonderful. But honestly, if you're going to if you want to play for a club that's winning Premier League, Champions Leagues, Newcastle aren't just there yet. They're getting there, and they've got a lot of time, a lot of decent players, and they've got a good manager. But if you want to play for one of the top teams right now, City's is where it's at. And like I said to you earlier, I think, yes, you're probably going to have to pay a world record fee. I think it's going to be around 70, 75, possibly 80 with add-ons. But I think, for me, the business we've done so far and for the prices we've brought in, I just think we can look at just saying we can push the boat out for a player like that.
Sometimes, yeah. I agree with you. To be fair, I think you're spot on what you said about the price and that, and I think that's probably the way it would probably go. But for me, I don't know. Sometimes I just think, is it just too easy to think this, right? But right, Martin, have we got a buyback in James Trafford?
Yes.
Right, how much is that for?
Buyback at
20, yeah. I think it's about 20.
Is it 20? Is it 25 or 30? We're only at 25.
40.
It's between the two. I know that much. It's between 20.
It is not for sale, so why mention it? Because it's a transfer market, mate, and players are allowed to be sold.
Could we not?
Player has a price.
Right. So could we not buy Trafford back? Right. This is going to sound a bit mental. So just hang in there. Just hear me out. Right. Could we not buy Trafford back? Give him to Newcastle as part of the Livramento deal. Right, for you're basically giving him for nothing, right? But obviously, City aren't obviously paying as much in the longer run, and then loan him a player out or give him a player such as Whta, who only has 1 year left in his deal and probably going to go anywhere. Would that not be more beneficial to do something like that than like Ozzy's just said? Because I hear Ozzy's point, and I think that's probably the way we're going to probably end up going, isn't it? To be fair, but
I think Elliot. I think, to be honest, rather than buying him back, because I think it's just a longer process, and it's just. I think what City would probably do is they would just turn around to Newcastle and say, "Listen, we're at the race. You want to sign Trafford? Go ahead. We're not going to try and buy him back or anything like that." And I think possibly they might look at, Jack Grealish going the other way. I think it'd be a separate deal, if I'm honest, if they're going to do something like that, or even Whta, it'd be separate deals. But that's the way I could see it happening. And back to the Newcastle's point, listen, I'm really sorry to say this, but so far, Newcastle have not come out and denied and said he's not for sale. No journalist from Newcastle has come out to say on behalf of the club he's not for sale. So for me, that should ring alarm bells to say, listen, City are being very professional and they're talking to probably Newcastle at the moment behind closed doors because they don't need it out in the public. Newcastle don't want it in the public. They'll be doing this deal over the summer. It's going to be a long one. I don't expect to be done anytime soon. I think you're probably going to be looking towards, August, early August, maybe even possibly later. Just depends, because I don't think that Newcastle are not going to want to be seen to be rolling over to City. Do you know what I mean? So
can I just say this as well, Ozzy? Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're spot on. I think you're absolutely spot on everything you've said. And the thing is, Newcastle, I understand why Newcastle fans are getting upset and they're offended by the players being linked. Yeah, but do Newcastle want to continue shopping at Lidl, or do they want to have a year of shopping in Harrods?
Well, this is my thing. Yeah, the problem is what you just said before, though, Martin.
They've got to realise the way PSR works.
Yeah, and the problem is as well, like Ozzy's just said about, obviously, up for sale. The thing with that, Ozzy, is what I will say back to you is, though, is every player's up for sale. Harland's up for sale if the right price comes in. Rodri's up for sale if the right price comes in. Every player is trying for the right player. The problem is what we need to decide is we've saved money on Reinders, Cherky and Antnora. This is probably where it can come beneficial. Why not, like you've just said before, as if why not go and pay 80 million for him if that's what they want? Because let's be honest, what did we pay for Walker? Was it 50?
50 million.
So that was back how many years ago? 8 years ago. So now you're looking and you're thinking
10, nearly
10. Yeah, 10. Yeah, so then like looking, you're thinking, well, that's only call it 45, 56 million more, and obviously how the market's gone now.
But you I don't think
it'd be the best thing in the world.
Cucurella. You look at what they paid, what, 70 odd million for Cucurella? So we're not talking extremes here. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it hasn't been done, So I agree with you, Elliot. There's a price tag for every player. If someone came along, if Rodri came along for Harland and said, here's $500 million, seriously not just going to turn around and go, forget it, no way. They're gonna pause and think about it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying it's a definite that Livramento comes to us, but I definitely think there's a conversation going behind the closed doors right now between City and Newcastle. And
the other thing I said, he's on 62 grand a week, mate.
Yeah, but I also think you have to look at, just to add to your point you were making before, because he's currently in a 5-year deal. He's done 2 years, so you got to look at it from his amortization, where I think if we were to pay 75, 80 million for him, right, that's a cool 50 million profit. Okay, then they can spread that 50 million profit out on other players, because they'll be doing the same thing. They're not going to pay 50 million for a player and just bang it on one player. They spread it over a period of time. So the profit they're going to be making will end up being 100 million plus, if not more. Do you know what I mean? Because that is what every club does. So realistically, I don't think it's, as you said, Mike, I don't think it's something they can sniff at, really, in Newcastle's position, because they're going to want to add to that squad. They're going to want to buy more.
It's the way they're saying it's just unthinkable. No player is unthinkable. If Harland, we get 200 million, 250 million off of Harland, we're going to sell him. Simple fact. That's the way people have got to realise this. And the other side of the coin is, it's not a dig at Newcastle. Take it as a compliment that people want to buy your players. But the simple fact is, Newcastle, I will say some, because some are amazing, are moaning at Embremo, and they're moaning about spending 40 million on Trafford. Does that not tell you there is a problem? Not a major problem with PSR, but there is still a restriction on spending. But if we'd have come to you and said 40 million, then I get it, yeah, be upset because that's taking the piss. But coming with a world record fee for a defender or a fullback, that's not disrespectful.
Do you know our problem? Yeah. Do you know our biggest problem here is, if we don't get Livramento, who else is there out there? Right, and that problem is same thing applies for Newcastle if he was to get Livramento.
Give him Rico then.
I don't think that's happening, is it? Yeah. as much as I probably agree with that, Martin,
Elliot, Newcastle could also a thing for us is homegrown. Newcastle could get a midfielder that's homegrown. We're kind of we only have certain spots that we can fill up right now. I think they could get maybe another homegrown player in a different position rather than that right back spot. If you want to look at it from that lens.
Yeah, no. It's not just that as well. It's also with Newcastle, they've got a core of players. They're superstar players. Yeah, the likes of Bruno and the likes of Isaac, where they want to keep these players, and to keep the players and keep them sweet, they're going to have to think about their wages as well and their bonuses, because they're now in the Champions League. It all starts adding up. That Newcastle are in a position where I think Martin's right, where they may not be massively worrying about PSR, but they're definitely going to have to look at it to keep some of these players happy and to bring in more quality players. So for me, I think if they have to sell, they're going to look at who they can probably let go. And if a bid of 80 million comes in for Livramento, I think they're seriously going to consider it.
Also, you can't even get Isaac tied down. You can't get Isaac because there's a wage cap or a wage structure at Newcastle, sadly. And whether they like this or not, and this is again no dig, because I think Newcastle are a fantastic club, and I think they've been done dirty in the PSR scenario. I totally agree. But 150 grand a week is not keeping Isaac around. 150. Isaac can go anywhere and get 200-300 grand a week. I'm sorry, that's the market now. That's the market. I know it's hard. I don't know it's unfair, but that is the market now. You can't be penny pinching and then say I still want to win the league. Yeah. No, the fact is, City, in 2008, there was no rules. There was no rules. So we were given free reign, the same as Chelsea. I know it's hard and it's nasty and it's not good.
But Martin, they still need, and plus they need squad depth to compete in all these competition and still get top 4 in the league. They can't afford a year without if they don't make a top 4 spot, big players will leave.
And that's the thing, Ed. Like when you're looking at this, like you made a really good point. There are only 4 positions for the Champions League, unless a 5th one becomes available because of what's happened last season. But the likeliness is there are 6, 7, 8 clubs that all want that Champions League spot, and you only have to look at the quality that the likes of Aston Villa, Newcastle now, Chelsea are starting to get back into form. Tottenham possibly. I'm not putting United in there, but in a few years maybe. But honestly, the big clubs, it's no longer the big 6. You're talking the big 7, 8 now. Do you know what I mean? And there are only 4 spots for Champions League. Someone's going to miss out, or more than one club are going to miss out. It's that much. There's so much on the line for these clubs now that you've just got to accept that you're going to have to do some smart thinking and possibly let some players go if you're just
especially with the new UEFA rules.
Yeah,
the new UEFA rules. That's Newcastle are fined, because I read this for Stefan Borston. Newcastle are fined PSR wise in the Premier League, so they're not having to sell anyone. But the problem is they are at above the 70% ratio on club to wages turnover. Yeah. That's why they can't offer the mega wages to people.
So look at it from a Newcastle position then, yeah. So Livramento goes, or were they realistically going to get it right back though?
What about the Monaco kid?
Now, is he not meant to be more like as a rotational player that I thought they were getting him for? Or?
No, a lot of teams would take him as first choice.
Who did you say, Martin? I might have got that wrong. Who did you say?
There's a single.
Is it called? Yeah, Singo. Who's the other one we're looking at? And there's another fullback. See, there are people out there. Even I'm not. This is going to sound wild, Dave. Would Mateus Nunes not be a better option for them on the right back?
It's a hell
Not
of
sure
a
about that.
wild shout, that.
Instead of Livramento.
They were linked to the
I'm not being funny, Elliot. All right, I'm going to put this in a very cruel way.
Molina.
It's not our problem. With all fairness, Elliot, and all these clubs have come out, and this is why I have sympathy to a point, but only to a point. Of a lot of these clubs want to destroy us.
Yeah, I think you have to be.
A lot of these clubs want to destroy us. Well, when did Manchester City stop being the nice people? Why can't we become the see you next Tuesdays a little bit?
No, it's not that.
We did it to the likes of Arsenal back in the day, didn't we? You know, when they had some really good players, we came along, and Severin Nasri, we took off them. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of ruthlessness sometimes you have to be. I agree with Martin. You can't just be with a nice guy and just think, oh, well, who are they going to replace him with? That's not our problem. We're coming in with a world record fee, and if you're willing to sell him, then that's it. That you have to then look at who you're going to replace him with.
But is that realistic, though? Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to look at that, or are they going to look at the fact that Livramento probably is going to be probably, if not the best right back in, I'd say 5 years? Are they wanting? Yeah. Are they going to want? You know what I mean? Are they going to want to sell him for 75 million now?
But then again, Elliot, if that's the case, then why haven't they come out and denied it and turned around and gone?
Yeah. No, I hear that. Yeah.
Elliot, I think like what Mark said before and what Ozzy said, you might have to sacrifice a position for the long-term success. Because I think they would rather let a Livramento go than in a year's time lose a Izzat, lose a Tonali that are coming up on 2 years left on their deals. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And would you rather sacrifice?
That's what I mean. It's not nice.
No, let's say that I'm not bothered about the position, is it? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, obviously, I'm just looking at it from a more realistic point of view. Of obviously, Newcastle will probably want someone in, I would imagine, before Livramento was to go. Who would?
And that's why I'm saying, Elliot, that I think it's not going to be done anytime soon. Yes, I think that they're going to want to look at getting in a replacement before, and there has been some links of right backs coming, from media speculation. So. I just think it's not going to be done in weeks. It's going to be a month and getting into August maybe for this deal to ultimately be done.
Yeah, not before the Club World Cup ends, because now it doesn't have to sign anyone before a month. So it would be a few weeks.
How old is that? How old's Bowie and Fort? How old are they?
They're like 24, and then I think the other lad at Barca's about 18. The other lad at Barca's, the other lad at Barca's 18, innit? I think
23. But
see, the one at 18, right? So the one at 18, the one at 4 wouldn't be a problem. Bowie would be a problem. You need to sell 4 foreign players on to make the space.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. Like, you have to think about the English quota. We've still got that over us right now. Is where we need to bring, and this is why it makes so much sense to get Livramento for me. So.
He's the ideal one, isn't he? He's the ideal one, I think.
And I just think the other players that we've been linked with, I just think, they're not bad players, but they're very much up and coming. And we've got the likes of Rico, who, yes, I know he's not a right back, but ultimately he knows our system, and if need be, the same with Nunez. I don't want to see it because I want us to bring in a proper right back, but I don't want us to go out there and buy one for someone for the sake of it. Do you know what I mean? I think we need to be buying the right player for the right position and to help with the quota, because ultimately I think that's the sticking point really for going forward, because of just, as Martin said, we can't really bring in much more foreign players without losing a lot more. Right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there because, again, Martin is on the move and he's going to do a space anyway, so I'm sure he's going to continue this for the next 2 to 3 hours in the space. I have no doubt with Elliot.
Birmingham's not that far. Jesus.
Oh, I know it's not that far, Martin, but the way you waffle on, you're probably going to continue it for the next 2 to 3 hours. So I could be wrong.
Wow. Just to let them know, Ozzy, there will be we're going to do another fan calling show on Sunday night. I will say this: it is Father's Day in the UK. Please look after your fathers. Please look after them. Show them all your love. If they're not with you anymore, please remember them. So make your father feel very, very special on Friday, because you only ever get one.
Most definitely. And again, if anyone's a father in the chat or watching, happy Merry Returns for Father's Day there as well. I'd just like to say a big thank you to Alan and Rich, who joined us earlier on and had to go, sadly, because obviously time differences. They've both got work. Ed, thank you very much, mate, for coming on. Always a pleasure having you on. Same with Dharmesh and Elliot. Guys, you've all been fantastic. I hope to have you all on again soon. And Martin, appreciate you going through some tough things at the moment, mate. So we wish you and your dad all the best.
Yes.
Yeah, big up to everyone. Big thank you to all the regulars. Thank you to the LB Raiders as well. Really does appreciate it. It's your channel. Please give it a like on the way out. It's free of charge. Doesn't hurt, but it does help massively. Like I said, the Waffle Show, Transfer Waffle Show, will be back next week, I promise. We'll be back Sunday. I'll do something Sunday night. But yeah, please take care. Have a lovely weekend. And massive big up to the chat, the panel, and to Ozza, who has been an amazing host again this evening. The check is in the post. Good night, all.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
and
everyone.
thanks everyone. See you later, and uploads.